let's talk about one of the most fascinating stories happening in medicine right now. It's about a cancer vaccine that's been around for decades, but it produced results that were so good that scientists are only just now figuring out the secret to its incredible success.
Okay, so get this. The whole thing starts with a small clinical trial more than 20 years ago. It was for women with advanced metastatic breast cancer. And the outcome? It was just astonishing. Every single person who participated in that trial is alive today. Now, for that stage of cancer, that kind of outcome is practically unheard of.
For years, this result was a complete mystery. I mean, the initial data was good, sure, but it didn't explain this level of survival, not by a long shot. So what changed? Well, recently researchers decided to go back. They looked at these survivors again, and what they found? It could totally change how we think about cancer vaccines.
Just take a second and let that number sink in. 100%. A 100% survival rate after 2 decades for patients who had advanced breast cancer. This is the stat that kicked off a whole new wave of investigation, and it is the absolute heart of this entire story.
All right, so to really solve this mystery, we've got to go back to the very beginning. How was this vaccine even supposed to work in the first place? The fundamental idea was pretty brilliant. Train the body's own immune system to become a cancer-fighting army.
And the main target for this immune army was a protein called HER2. You can kind of think of it like a little flag that some cancer cells wave on their surface. So the vaccine, which was called E75, was basically a training program teaching the immune system to spot that HER2 flag, recognize it as an enemy, and then, go on the attack. And for a while, it seemed to be working just as planned. The 5-year results were definitely promising. You had patients who got the vaccine with almost a 90% survival rate, which was about 10 points higher than the group that didn't. By any normal measure, that's a win. But it still didn't add up. Those numbers don't explain 100% survival 20 years down the road. The real answer had to be hiding somewhere else. So the plot thickens. The mystery really started to unravel when scientists at Duke Health went back and re-examined blood samples from those long-term survivors. They were hunting for clues, and boy did they find one. What they discovered totally flipped their understanding of how this vaccine actually worked. I mean, this quote from Dr. Zachary Hartman at Duke just says it all. He said they were stunned. Even 2 decades later, the survivors' immune systems were still totally primed and ready to go, holding on to this powerful long-term memory of how to fight the cancer. That right there, that was the breakthrough. And this discovery led to a huge shift in thinking. See, for the longest time, the big focus in this field was on what are called CD8+ killer T cells. These are the frontline soldiers, right? The ones that physically attack the tumors. But the team at Duke found the real hero of the story was a different cell, the CD4+ helper T cell. These guys are the generals of the immune army. They're the ones creating the battle plan, supporting the soldiers, and, this is the crucial part, creating a powerful, lasting memory of the enemy.
And they got even more specific. They found a particular marker on these general cells called CD27. This really seems to be the secret ingredient. CD27 acts like a master switch for immune memory. It's the thing that makes sure the body never forgets what the cancer looks like, keeping it on high alert for decades.
So they took this new theory to the lab, and the results were just wow. In mice, the vaccine by itself only got rid of tumors about 6% of the time. But when they added something to activate that CD27 signal, to supercharge the generals, that number shot up to 40%. And then, when they supported the soldier cells on top of that, an incredible 90% of the mice had their tumors completely vanish.
Okay, a 90% success rate in a lab is a massive breakthrough. But how do you take something that works in a lab mouse and turn it into a medicine that helps a real person? Well, that is what's called the clinical trial gauntlet. A super long, incredibly expensive, and extremely rigorous process to prove a discovery is the real deal. To confirm this breakthrough, every single step of the next trial has to be planned down to the last detail. It all starts with a crystal clear scientific question. It's not just, hey, does this work? It's more like, can we prove that this therapy increases this specific immune response in this specific way? And of course, patient safety is everything. So the rules are all built around watching for something called a serious adverse event, or SAE. And the definition for that is incredibly broad. It covers basically anything bad, from a life-threatening reaction all the way to something that requires a patient to be hospitalized. The process for reporting one of these events is unbelievably strict and fast.
An investigator has just 24 hours to report any serious problem. 24 hours! And then a super detailed follow-up report has to get sent within 2 days. That level of rigor is absolutely essential to keep everyone safe in a big, complicated trial.
And this strictness applies to literally everything, from patient behavior and keeping perfect data records all the way to financial disclosures from the researchers. It's this complex web of rules all designed for one thing, to make sure the final results are both safe and scientifically bulletproof.
So, after all that, where are we today? Well, armed with all this new knowledge about CD27 and those general helper T cells, researchers are finally ready to put this vaccine concept to the ultimate test.
Man, the journey to get here has been a long one. It started with those first trials way back in the early 2000s. Then came years of these puzzling long-term results, which finally led to the recent breakthrough discovery about CD27. All of that work has led right up to this moment, a massive, new trial designed to confirm everything they've learned.
And that trial has a name, Flamingo-01. It's a huge global study, and its goal is both simple and profound: to prove once and for all that this vaccine can actually stop breast cancer from coming back.
And a phase 3 trial, that's the big one. It's the final and most important step before a new medicine can even be considered for approval. This is where you test it in hundreds, sometimes thousands of people to get the definitive proof that it works and that it's safe. Success here is what gets a new treatment to patients.
The scale of this thing is just immense. We're talking about 500 patients being enrolled in hospitals all across the United States and Europe. This is the kind of massive investment and scientific commitment it takes to turn a 2-decade-old medical mystery into a potential new standard of care.
This last quote from Dr. Hartman just sums up the hope perfectly. The promise of a cancer vaccine has always been enormous, but honestly, the results have often been disappointing. This discovery about CD27 and the immune system's long-term memory, it really could be the missing piece of the puzzle that finally makes that promise a reality. When you look at the whole picture, this 20-year saga is just such a powerful reminder of how science really works. It's not a flash of lightning. It's a slow, patient, and often completely unpredictable process. It proves that sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from going back to old mysteries with new tools and fresh eyes, showing that medical progress is truly a marathon, not a sprint.